Amid the warm setting of a luxurious bathtub, a small rubber duck floats on the water's surface, signaling absolute relaxation and fleeting peace, completely contrasting with the chaotic events unfolding on another floor of the tower. An elderly man is enjoying a rare moment of relaxation, closing his eyes and sighing contentedly as steam and soap bubbles envelop him. For him, it is the perfect time to dispel all stress. However, the peaceful moment is quickly shattered. An unexpected urgent call connects, splashing water everywhere, and the elderly man startles and shouts helplessly at the sudden appearance of the caller. Kang Jin-hyuk smiles slyly through the connection screen, paying no mind to the inconvenient timing, tossing an item toward the screen and bluntly declaring, "Sign the contract." Sitting in the bathtub, his whole body submerged in bubbles, the elderly man helplessly stares at the screen. He whispers Jin-hyuk's name, wishing he could contact him in a more normal way, at least not while he is bathing. At the same time, a sharp slash tears through the night. A ninja delivers a critical strike, his sword tracing a long streak of light, splitting the ground in the deep forest. In the darkness, his teammates hurriedly stack wood and protect the vehicle. Trees fall under the sharp sword strokes while the ninjas maintain high alertness. Suddenly, a group of demons with red streaks on their bodies rushes down from above. Their piercing screams echo through the forest, signaling a fierce and chaotic raid. The demons are knocked back before they can touch the ground. A man with tied-up hair counterattacks powerfully. Each swing of his arm creates shockwaves that send enemies flying off their attack paths. After the brief skirmish, the man calmly exhales deeply. His every step and breath carry an unusual calmness, as if the recent raid was not worth his concern. Jin-hyuk carefully shakes a test tube containing a red solution, preparing a special medicine with an extremely calm expression, as if everything had long been part of his plan. With a smug smile, Jin-hyuk gently inhales the scent from the vial while Melina stands behind him curiously asking, her eyes showing both caution and confusion at his strange behavior. Jin-hyuk casually replies, holding the vial close to a monster bearing a distinctive red mark, revealing that this mixture only works on those with that mark, a controlling secret technique. Immediately, the monster changes its attitude, becoming cheerful and obedient like a puppet, causing Jin-hyuk to smile smugly as he declares, it will now obey all his commands. Melina frowns in response, muttering that this behavior is nothing less than enslaving the monster, but deep in her eyes shines a bit of admiration for the powerful and effective tactic Jin-hyuk just executed. When the concoction is complete, the group stands beside the tamed goblin and a large cart suddenly brakes sharply in front of them, a signal that the next step in the plan is ready to be deployed. With a confident finger point and shining eyes, Jin-hyuk calls out, "Goblin save wagon," marking the moment he officially summons his new transport vehicle with his goblin army. On top of the cart, Jin-hyuk stands proudly commanding as the goblin horde charges forward like a storm, pushing the cart ahead with the momentum of a thunderous army launching a rescue campaign. The goblin team runs wildly, faces full of enthusiasm and excitement as if enjoying the greatest adventure of their lives, despite the fact that they are completely controlled. Melina, buffeted by strong wind while standing on the speeding cart, shouts at Jin-hyuk, did he capture them just to use as transportation? Though confused, she cannot deny the astonishing effectiveness of this strategy. As the cart sped across the ground, Jin-hyuk explained that the 8th floor was vast, making the preservation of energy vital. However, he subtly emphasized that this goblin cart was not just for saving effort, it had a truly different purpose. With eyes gleaming coldly, Jin-hyuk revealed the hidden goal of the plan, not mere movement, but a warning declaration. The cart was a message that cheap tricks would not shake the position of the true ruler. In the darkened sky, a creature with the form of an angel but full of menace appeared. Jin-hyuk's words rang out like a proud proclamation, all must bow before the new master of this floor. Amid the cold wind slicing through the speed, a subtle gesture from the girl in black caught Melina's attention. She turned around, surprised by the unexpected approach. Sitting side by side on the roof of the cart, the girl in black asked hesitantly. She doubted Jin-hyuk's evil nature, while also curious about the relationship between Melina and the so-called master. Melina laughed scornfully. To her, the title Master was a joke. She frankly revealed that Jin-hyuk would not hesitate to use any means to achieve his goals, regardless of the cost. Melina's voice lowered but grew colder. She asserted that sooner or later, the newcomer would realize the truth that Jin-hyuk was the closest embodiment of the devil they had ever seen. Those words stunned the new companion. His expression darkened, and his sharp eyes showed suspicion. Devil? Elsewhere, Catherine was in critical condition. Blood spilled from her mouth, her eyes dimmed from exhaustion. A teammate hurriedly held her back, anxiously calling her name in panic. The whole team was struggling to retreat, carrying the severely injured Catherine. The leader signaled that they were close to the floor's exit gate, hoping to get everyone out of danger in time. In the tense and urgent atmosphere, a vanguard member suddenly stood in front of the group, eyes resolute and voice firm. He declared he would block everything right there, ready to face the newly appeared threat. The sky ahead lit up with dazzling yellow lightning as a strange shadow gradually approached. The warriors immediately became alert, drawing weapons and shouting for the stranger to identify himself, ready to attack if necessary. Amid the dim light, the stranger spoke with a mysterious smile. He echoed the question in a gentle yet provocative tone, showing no fear but rather holding the upper hand. Under the wary gaze of the warriors, he calmly introduced himself, not by name, but by role. Dark tentacles began rising from the ground, surrounding the area, signaling a terrible danger approaching. Amid the shockwave, he raised his head and smiled widely in a chilling manner. His eyes gleamed with madness and absolute loyalty as he declared his identity, the most loyal one, the right hand of the master. As the confrontation was about to erupt ahead, the convoy suddenly stopped amid screeching wheels and flying dirt and rocks. A decisive voice ordered the group to pause their journey. From atop the cart, Jin-hyuk casually observed the situation, shrugging as he remarked that the opponent still hadn't fallen into the trap. Meanwhile, Melina beside him questioned skeptically, unclear about what trap he was referring to. Notification systems flashed repeatedly. Jin-hyuk had purchased a cheap pickaxe and simultaneously activated a 3-star amplification barrier, creating a brightly glowing area transmitting energy. A face covered by a purple mask appeared with a cold, murderous aura. Jin-hyuk slightly raised his hand, flames igniting in his palm as he activated the fire element, a carefully calculated move to provoke and force the opponent to reveal themselves. The combination of the barrier and fire element created a powerful enhancement effect. The ordinary pickaxe was greatly strengthened, its light bursting forth illuminating the mountain crevice like a declaration of war echoing throughout the area. Teresa stood stunned, unable to believe what was happening before her eyes. She exclaimed in amazement, questioning whether this strange method was truly that effective. From the cheap exchange, a sparkling diamond pickaxe suddenly appeared. It was described as a specially enhanced weapon powered by elemental strength capable of increasing mining range by 200% for a limited time. Seizing the opportunity, Jin-hyuk ordered the slave goblins to start breaking down the wall. Under his command, the small creatures rushed forward, carrying the newly acquired special tool. The resounding sounds of the stone wall being smashed echoed throughout the space. The goblins struck their pickaxes with strange excitement, creating shockwaves that astonished the entire team. Teresa chuckled softly, unable to hide her admiration. Her expression mixed surprise and acknowledgement. Jin-hyuk's plan had once again succeeded beyond imagination. Observing from afar, Teresa silently calculated in her mind. At the current breaking speed, they could conquer the 8th floor in less than a week. She sighed, looking at the man ahead, her heart stirred. Once again, Jin-hyuk had come up with a crazy but surprisingly effective method. Was this the right time for her to switch sides? Just as Teresa hesitated, a cold laugh echoed from behind. A new figure appeared, stepping out with overwhelming presence, asserting that continuing like this would destroy the entire floor. Electric sparks flashed through the air as a strange dwarf with a horn in the middle of his forehead stepped out from a gate of light. He claimed to understand the message Jin-hyuk was trying to send and called him directly by name, unknown. Immediately, Teresa and the accompanying swordsman drew their weapons ready to confront him. But the newcomer merely raised his hand, smiling sinisterly, signaling a warning not to act rashly, for he was not as simple as his foolish appearance suggested. The silver-haired boy smiled wickedly, raising his hand in midair and coldly declaring that he held hostages, a psychological move to gain the upper hand. In a dazzling light display, he revealed the hostages being held captive, including those whom the protagonists had risked their lives to rescue before, now all fallen into enemy hands. Feigning goodwill, he offered an exchange condition. If the other side obediently complied, he would release the hostages unharmed. But his arrogant eyes and smile showed it was merely a trap. Not allowing the opponent to continue the act, Jin-hyuk suddenly closed in and activated the skill Titan's grip, squeezing the enemy tightly in his hand, executing a swift and unexpected counterattack. The boy panicked as he was caught in an instant. Terror echoed in his mind. He hadn't even had time to react before being crushed in his opponent's grasp. While the enemy's body still hovered, Jin-hyuk coldly declared he did not care about the hostages, and all the opponent's schemes were just self-deception. With a chilling voice and glowing purple eyes, Jinhyuk exposed the opponent's strategic mistake. Sending the one who could open the space gate right before him was the dumbest move. Wasting no time, Jinhyuk cast the skill, Black Tentacle Cocoon. Black tentacles shot out from nowhere, wrapping tightly around the enemy like a spider cocooning its prey. He stood proudly amid the magical light while the dark tentacles coiled tightly around the target. A system prompt confirmed the skill had been fully activated successfully. Surrounded by dark energy, the silver-haired boy finally realized his grave mistake. In panic, he knew only one thing: he had to retreat immediately. Just as the enemy tried to escape, Jinhyuk unleashed the move Dark Sky Demon Ruler, summoning a massive dark power that blasted the foe into the air amid agonized screams and dazzling light shocks. The monster was caught midair, blood spilling from its mouth as Jinhyuk calmly squeezed its neck, his cold eyes speaking mockingly. "Where do you think you're going?" Dark energy erupted, Jinhyuk's arm covered in black-purple energy. He declared decisively, his gaze icy cold, "You only leave when I allow it." Elsewhere, Melina and the black-clad swordsman toyed with the defeated opponent, despite him being slammed repeatedly against the ground by their merciless blows. In the dark arena, a giant figure with majestic white wings appeared. The pack of beasts below all turned to him simultaneously in the stifling air, preparing for the great battle. A giant monster with red stripes roared angrily, emitting blazing red energy as its eyes glowed fiercely, seemingly controlled by some newly emerged power. A goddess-like figure silently turned her head in the flickering light. Her soft white hair obscured part of her face but could not hide her vigilance. The dwarf demon from before now lay sprawled on the ground, his body covered in blood. Above him, a flash of golden energy shone like the blade of justice just struck down. Slow footsteps echoed in the silent atmosphere. Jinhyuk stepped into the light, speaking with sarcasm. "Looks like you all prepared quite well." Jinhyuk appeared with two companions behind him. Light burst forth behind them like a newly opened gate, his voice cold and deep. "We took a shortcut, so we arrived a bit early." Melina frowned, lightly placing her hand on her forehead in a moment of tension. Although she always appeared confident, she could not hide her worry when facing a situation beyond control. Before them, a huge and numerous horde of monsters surged like a flood. Melina tilted her head toward Jinhyuk, softly voicing her doubt. "Could this be too much, even for you?" Wolyang quickly stepped forward, her voice decisive amid the chaos, suggesting to open a retreat path using the Black Wind Guild forces. She clearly understood that the priority now was safety and a dispersal strategy. Jinhyuk turned back, his gaze sharp as if tearing through the atmosphere. He called out only one name, Wolyang. She immediately responded, seriously awaiting the next order. His voice sounded slow but full of weight. "Who have I claimed to be?" The seemingly simple question made Wolyang hesitate, confused. As she awkwardly answered, the winged creature opposite solemnly confirmed Jinhyuk's identity, the heir of the Black Emperor, dragon god of heaven and earth. He did not deny it, only nodded calmly. "Exactly?" Facing the roaring monsters, Jinhyuk ordered, "Do not act recklessly." He coldly asserted that they were not strong enough to harm him, sparking astonishment among his teammates. Turning his back to them, Jinhyuk conveyed absolute trust. "No matter what happens, trust and follow me." To him, no one on the team deserved to be left behind to die. Wolyang stood still, her eyes sparkling with emotion as she listened to that vow. It was the first time she felt completely protected like that. In the dark night of memories, a pain stabbed her left shoulder. A silent question echoed in Wolyang's heart. "The last time, when was I protected by someone?" Wolyang knelt on the dimly lit floor, the wound on her shoulder still bleeding, while in front of her was a cold gun barrel aimed straight at her head. Though defeated, her eyes showed no fear, only silence and resistance. Lying alone on the bed in the quiet room, Wolyang bandaged her wound while looking up at the ceiling. A strange thought suddenly flashed. How long had it been since someone truly cared about her survival? A beam of light shone through the round window, filtering into the place where Wolyang sat leaning against the bed frame. Her eyes looked up at the light, one hand placed on her chest as if to feel something new, a strange emotion she had long forgotten. Wolyang's face finally broke into a gentle smile. Deep inside, she whispered acceptance. That warm trust and feeling were what she had never received from anyone else. The system signaled. Respect points for the main character increased. At the same time, on the arena floor, the leader with white wings shouted loudly, ordering all soldiers to eliminate the infiltrating group. He dangled an attractive reward, the territory on the 8th floor, prompting the monsters to immediately attack. The monsters seemed to receive the command and charged onto the arena. A heavy step slammed hard onto the ground, creating a violent shockwave signaling the start of a fierce battle. From within the encirclement, a giant beast stepped out fiercely. With a massive body, glowing red eyes, and a huge battle axe in hand, he proclaimed himself Kongora of the Black Rock tribe and declared he would fight personally. Roaring angrily, Kangora swung his axe with fury. From above, his strike carried both weight and killing intent, threatening to crush everything below. The storm-like blow descended, creating a wave of energy that devastated the ground. Sparks flared from the friction, demonstrating the tremendous power he wielded. But the outcome was completely the opposite. Kangora lay motionless in the arena, blood gushing from his chest, his eyes wide open in disbelief that he, the challenger, had been defeated with a single strike. Kangora's tragic death silenced the entire horde of monsters to a terrifying degree. They just stood watching his body collapse, no one daring to utter a word, unsure whether from fear or trying to process the absurd truth before them. In the faint mist, a figure radiating a dark aura stood tall in the battlefield, his fist still enveloped by a cold purple energy. He had just taken down Kangora with a single blow, a shock beyond imagination. His face obscured by a black mask, his eyes glowing mysteriously. Jinhyuk clenched his fist as he solemnly mentioned the cold truth. The 9th floor had 3 leaders and Kangora was only one of them. However, the absence of the other 2 leaders made Jinhyuk cautious. He knew well, they did not disappear without reason but were silently preparing for something more dangerous. The gaze of the white bird, one of the 3 leaders, revealed clear anxiety. Jinhyuk's group arriving so quickly caught it off guard, forcing it to reconsider its plans. Its face twisted in anger. Things were going off the original plan. The intruders were not eliminated but were overwhelming. It needed more time at all costs. With no way out, it shouted an order for a full assault. A wave of roaring monsters surged forward, creating chaos. All targeted Jinhyuk, the one who crushed Kangora like an insect. The battlefield descended into chaos as the group was pushed into a defensive stance. A warrior was knocked to the ground, only able to scream as the flood of monsters approached, destroying everything. When trying to activate the live broadcast system to call for help, he only received a cold notification, "Cannot broadcast." The battle was happening in darkness. No one outside knew what was going on. Sweat dripped from his forehead, his eyes desperately searching for hope. The soldier stammered, there must be a way to contact them. And when light flashed from the bracelet, a final glimmer of hope appeared. At the headquarters of the American Awakening Association, the atmosphere suddenly became tense as important news shook the entire office. Ashley, a famous reporter from the media team, slammed her hand on the table angrily. She could not accept that her superiors refused support even though Jack, the one she loved, was missing on the 8th floor. While Ashley reacted fiercely, another member calmly took notes. The unstable international situation, especially from countries like India and Russia, was causing all support plans to hit a dead end. Hedges, the emergency support team leader, reminded Ashley of political realities and national security risks, making rescue deployment nearly impossible. He continued analyzing that the 8th floor was nothing but a giant maze. If Jack was capable enough, he could survive and escape on his own. Unable to hold back any longer, Ashley clenched her teeth in anger. Jack being her boyfriend now became a reason for others to see her as unstable, increasing her frustration. A loud noise echoed as Ashley's furious punch slammed down on the table, expressing long-suppressed rage. A killing intent rose around Ashley, freezing the entire room. She shouted in outrage, if citing national security means abandoning comrades, then that is not the organization she trusts. After the outburst, Ashley collapsed in despair. She did not need reasons or reports. Just by intuition, she knew Jack was truly in danger. Looking at the ring on her hand, Ashley softly called her beloved's name in silence, as a vow that she would not give up even if everyone turned their backs. Ashley's eyes lit up as she suddenly received a visual sharing signal from Jack Friedman, a surprising act that left her stunned in amazement. The system confirmed that visual sharing had begun. Ashley's body glowed amid the energy flow, opening a direct connection to Jack's vision from inside the tower. From Jack's perspective, Ashley immediately witnessed the chaotic battle on the 8th floor, where Unknown was rampaging, brutally crushing the monsters. Through intense notifications, Jack urgently informed Ashley. Not only had Unknown appeared, but the 9th floor boss had also crossed down to the 8th floor, leading a horde of monsters. Jack, battered and bruised, raised his head and shouted through the connection, demanding Ashley warn the world, because the tower's fixed rules might have been broken. Seeing Jack still alive and his fighting spirit unbroken, Ashley's eyes brightened with joy, calling his name with all the emotions surging within her. At that moment, the system initiated a relay channel, turning the visual sharing into a global live broadcast. Everyone was watching the battle unfold in real time. The online community began to go wild over the unusual live stream. Comments flooded in, questioning the appearance of the 9th floor monsters and Unknown's forbidden skill. Some started speculating and praising Unknown as the only opponent who could stand on par with Kang Jinhyuk, sparking hope and debate among observers. Amid the chaos, unknowns stood coldly in the battlefield, sending a challenge to the enemies. Was it their turn to step up, or were they just meant to be his practice prey? Atisha gritted her teeth in fury upon seeing the challenge before her. Her pride wounded, she muttered a curse with eyes blazing with electric fire. How dare a weakling disdain her? Unable to endure the insult any longer, Atisha roared, "The game is over," and unleashed her ultimate skill, Thunder Shock, covering the battlefield with a dazzling electric net like a thunder god's wrath. In the sky, thunder and lightning gathered into a gigantic energy sphere. Atisha, with wings crackling with electricity, was ready to deliver a punishing blow to the enemies below. Witnessing the impending destruction, one teammate shouted, "Master," in panic. Meanwhile, the red-haired girl beside him merely whistled softly as if watching an entertaining show. Lightning struck from above with a booming kaboom, creating a fierce explosion that shook the entire space, a truly devastating attack. But the unexpected happened. Atasha's eyes filled with horror as she realized the attack had failed. The electricity began to weaken, fading away with a helpless fizzle. One of the small creatures standing amid the dust calmly spoke. "We are the guardians of the Master," signaling a turning point about to begin. Darkness was torn apart by mystical light as Kang Jinhyuk stood among 5 elemental spirits, the special elemental forces, each embodying power representing a part of the universe. Atisha was astonished, exclaiming upon realizing these creatures should have been on the 25th floor. But the only response was a cold reply from one of the spirits, "Losers have no right to choose." From the shadows, Jinhyuk stepped forward, his eyes glowing purple behind a black mask, coldly asking, "Is it my turn now?" As if he had truly controlled the battlefield from the start. As the situation grew serious, Kang Jinhyuk summoned his strongest forces, the 5 spirits manifesting as elemental entities: fire, water, wind, earth, and light. All 5 entered combat mode, creating overwhelming pressure across the battlefield. Without hesitation, Jinhyuk immediately ordered Woryong to act. His decisiveness was clear through his gestures and firm tone, marking the beginning of the main counterattack. At the signal, Jinhyuk's entire force burst into motion. The command "Attack" acted like a fuse, triggering a coordinated assault from the spirits and teammates in perfect rhythm. From above, masked subordinates received the attack order. In the swirling wind, they all leapt into the battlefield at dizzying speed, signaling that the real battle had begun. The chaotic scene exploded as the 5 spirits simultaneously unleashed their skills. Howling wind, swirling water, blazing fire, and shattering earth, each element coordinated seamlessly like a perfect destruction machine. Teresa observed while forcing a smile amid the chaos around her. Despite the battle erupting, she felt reassured knowing the elemental spirits stood on their side. Jinhyuk said nothing, only quietly turned his head. That action was enough to immediately catch the attention of the person beside him, a small change but carrying a clear implication about the next move. A system icon appeared as Jinhyuk activated the skill, Command Seal. Teresa initially did not understand what was happening, only showing a puzzled and suspicious expression. But as soon as the seal took effect, Teresa burst forth with fierce fighting spirit. She charged into the front line, shouting proudly, "I will show you how deadly Vladivostok the venomous snake is." At the same time, Alice appeared via magical connection, asking with a half-teasing tone. But Jinhyuk calmly replied, "No need, we're fine," showing absolute confidence in their current force. As the battle dust still hung in the air, Kang Jinhyuk stood firm amid the rubble, his gaze calm and voice cold. At his feet, one of the stone spirits had just unleashed a powerful smash, crushing an enemy. Without lifting a finger, he asserted, "The situation is completely under my control." The words were a proud declaration of a strategist fully aware he was leading the battlefield from above. However, when Jinhyuk raised his head, darkness cast over his half-lit face, his purple eyes burning mysteriously. A phrase appeared like a warning from within. For now, he understood clearly, though winning, this was only a brief calm before the real storm began. In the dazzling city night lights, Yanawa cheerfully invited Teresa into her modern home, gently reminding her, "Remember to take off your shoes." The intimate atmosphere signaled a rare everyday moment amid the world's upheavals. Teresa entered with bright eyes, marveling at the house's luxury. The blonde girl couldn't hide her surprise, while Yanawa laughed modestly, explaining that it was actually her uncle's house. The atmosphere grew even cozier when Taemin appeared, warmly greeting Teresa after some time apart. Teresa smiled in return, creating a simple yet warm reunion moment among old friends. While chatting happily, Teresa's gaze suddenly stopped at the TV screen. Something caught her attention, making her tilt her head and murmur, "Huh, that is." Yanawa immediately explained that Jinhyuk had just appeared on American television. They were watching his live performance, a rare event that stirred curiosity in the room. Teresa sighed in relief, admitting she had worried about pretending not to recognize Jin Hyuk as unknown. The three quickly confirmed they knew Jin Hyuk from their teenage years. Just watching his movements was enough to recognize him. While watching, Taemin opened the maze map of the 8th floor, commenting that it was usually very boring. But something unusual happened. A boss from the 9th floor moved downward, a rare and suspicious event. Both agreed that a boss descending from the upper floor at this time was too early. This abnormal event forced the group to seriously reconsider what was happening inside the tower. Teresa thought deeply. With a pensive expression, she began piecing together the facts, sensing something wrong behind the sudden movements within the floor's structure. The screen clearly showed a battle scene. Teresa focused on the women fighting alongside Jin Hyuk. They were all faces she had never seen before. Curiosity mixed with caution began to kindle within her. Takashi gripped the sword hilt tightly, his eyes flashing determination as he swung the katana with all his strength. He would not allow himself to retreat, as this battle was a life-or-death challenge. The sharp blade drew a deadly arc through the air, cutting deep into the bodies of the large monsters. Screams echoed through the night, proving Takashi's critical strike. In the swirling darkness, black-masked figures from the 9th floor appeared simultaneously, silently rushing like ghosts, ready to launch surprise attacks from all directions. Takashi remained unshaken, moving powerfully step by step. Around him, cold slashes like death scythes tore through the air, leaving opponents only time to see blood before collapsing. Melina could not hide her excitement, her eyes blazing as she exclaimed admiration. She believed that if everyone maintained this form, victory was within reach, a thought that was premature. Footsteps shook the ground. A giant entity was approaching. Each stomp sounded like a death drum, signaling the arrival of an unprecedented threat. Melina immediately sensed something wrong. She panicked and screamed as she and Takashi turned around. The worried expressions on their faces clearly reflected that everything had just changed completely. From afar, two fierce monsters from the 9th floor appeared, Lizard King and Black Fang. Each carried terrifying killing intent, and their joint pursuit after leaving the floor was unprecedented. A giant creature with smooth white fur jumped out eagerly. He laughed loudly as if he had long awaited an enemy. The challenging greeting echoed like a bell signaling an intense upcoming battle. Two demonic weapons appeared with terrifying information. Burnt Titan's bone can permanently destroy an opponent's weapon, while twig soaked in pure blood causes irreparable damage. They are ruthless tools of annihilation. The dark-masked figure observed the battlefield with a cold gaze. He noticed the two newly appeared bosses holding dangerous relics, making him suspicious of the reason they abandoned their original positions. As soon as they reunited, the three bosses began a heated argument. The leader was angry because his comrades were late, while Lizard King and Black Fang argued that collecting the two special weapons was not easy. Facing useless excuses, the leader roared, pointing at Jin Hyuk's group, ordering his comrades to immediately eliminate the opponent he considered the greatest threat. Black Fang sneered contemptuously, confident that a small human was not worth causing such chaos over. While speaking, his claws clenched tightly with murderous intent. Without waiting for further orders, Black Fang roared angrily and charged straight at Jin Hyuk, leading a pack of black wolves radiating deadly aura in a fierce direct attack. Amid the shaking battlefield, Jin Hyuk calmly ordered Wolyang to act. She immediately responded with a cold smile, drawing her sword as she prepared to confront the enemy. Following Wolyang's command, the shadow ninjas surged forward simultaneously, determined to protect their master at all costs, forming a swift defensive line amid the raging battle winds. The clash erupted. The ninjas closed in on the beasts, delivering lightning-fast strikes to the growling wolf pack. Bright red slashes tore through the creatures, marking the start of a fierce melee. A dazzling golden light flashed from afar, signaling an unexpected intervention from a new force or skill, overshadowing the melee in an instant. The atmosphere became intensely suffocating. Black Fang, with bulging muscles, slammed the ground hard, shattering the stone floor and throwing a ninja aside. The roar ARGH echoed, demonstrating his absolute dominance on the battlefield. A shadow slammed onto the stone floor, blood spurting from his mouth, proving he had just taken a critical hit. A deep voice rose angrily amid a coughing fit. Humans are really troublesome. In a terrifying moment, the giant black wolf opened its blood-red mouth wide and lunged at the opponent with a chilling threat. I will devour all of you. A sharp blue light flashed, and Wolyang appeared midair at a terrifying speed. Her eyes gleamed with killing intent, her sword ready for the decisive strike. Wolyang's blade sliced straight into Black Fang's belly in a powerful swing. The wham sound echoed, pushing back the boss and causing him to roar in pain. Without hesitation, Wolyang spun midair. Her sword glowed within a swirling light vortex, ready to continue a chain of lethal moves, preventing any counterattack. Using the shadow kill skill, Wolyang multiplied into numerous shadows, attacking simultaneously with terrifying force. The battlefield was now bathed in cold blue light and spilled blood. Drops of blood fell onto the stone floor, mingling with the tense atmosphere after the finishing blow. The result of Shadow Kill was clear, a critical strike had landed. Despite being hit, Black Fong refused to fall. He roared in fury, his eyes blazing red and his body emitting scorching black energy, preparing for a counterattack. Wolyang stood silently amid the blood-soaked battlefield, her gaze cold and resolute. Behind her were wounded comrades, but her whispered words were full of authority. Rude Murim dogs. At that moment, a sudden counterattack struck with tremendous power. The wham sound rang out, accompanied by a brutal wave of energy sweeping away everything within its range. Amid the fierce battle, Melina suddenly charged with a fierce strike, taking down a large mutant. Her fiery red hair flew in the air, her eyes clearly showing anger and determination. A teammate called her name loudly, worried about the dangerous situation, but Melina responded harshly, shouting as she swung her battle staff, showing she was fighting to the end with no time for distractions. In front of them, a strange glowing mirror-like object appeared, accompanied by the message combining item. The masked man pointed at it, affirming that this was the group's only key to survival. He continued explaining, his face serious. If they wanted to survive and leave, they had to protect that item until the process was complete. The remaining time was just over 2 minutes. Melina, initially surprised, then gave a sly smile. A familiar cunning spark lit in her eyes as she understood her role in this battle. She laughed loudly, affirming she would do anything without hesitation to survive. Swinging her iron staff strongly, she created a fiery whirlwind like a destructive machine, ready to crush anyone who dared approach. The Cobra Whip skill was activated. Melina's powerful strikes transformed into illusions of cobras, sweeping away the monsters surrounding her from all sides. While Melina held the line, the masked man called Sylphid and dashed off amid thunder and lightning. A clear strategic move, marking the start of the next deployment phase. Sylphid, a white bird spirit beast, spread its wings and flew into the air. A spiraling vortex of wind surrounded it, signaling the preparation to activate a high-level skill. The system immediately announced, "Wind Jump has been activated." Sylphid generated a powerful compressed wind beneath its feet, propelling its master straight into the sky, initiating an attack beyond normal range. Activating the Wind Jump skill gave Jinhyuk superior jumping ability, as wind swirled around his body like a cushion, preparing for a leap beyond all physical limits. With his body wrapped in wind and perfect momentum, Jinhyuk dashed like a lightning bolt across the chaotic battlefield, leaving behind monsters scorched by firepower. The red dragon monster roared, mocking Jinhyuk's flying tactic, believing he would have to face it directly upon landing, a fatal mistake about to be revealed. In that brief moment, black wings suddenly flapped strongly in the battle's sunset glow, signaling the arrival of a familiar ally. Goguma Flight Mode was activated. Jinhyuk rode the familiar flying creature with bright large eyes, soaring out of enemy reach under the furious gaze of the red dragon. Surprised by being outpaced, the red dragon lost its composure, screaming in rage and despair as it saw its prey escape attack range right before its eyes. Just as the flight momentum peaked, the system temporarily disconnected the broadcast, cutting off all images transmitted from the midair battlefield. In the outside world, the crowd watching the battle on screens was stunned. Yanawa jumped up, shouting angrily as the image cut off at the climax. Her rising frustration almost made Yanawa smash the TV, while her friends panicked and tried to calm her down, fearing she would break the broadcasting device in her uncontrolled anger. At the system control center, an anonymous observer stared at the screen that had lost signal, shaking his head meaningfully and sarcastically commenting on the most troublesome player. Sitting in a dark room lit by flickering system panels, the mysterious editor showed irritation when asked to erase duplicate traces between Unknown and Kang Jinhyuk's identities. The harsh business conditions made him complain about maintaining transactions in this chaotic world. In another space, Kang Jinhyuk, with a cunning smile, proposed a trade, a scale of the Ancient One, an extremely rare and priceless item. With his usual confidence, he asserted that only he could provide that item. Faced with the tempting offer, the editor could only nod. Although reluctant, he could not resist such a precious item, especially when the condition was set by the only person who could fulfill it. Even after agreeing to activate the barrier as per the deal, he could not explain why Jinhyuk demanded that high-level entities be forbidden from entering the 8th floor. The mystery surrounding Jinhyuk left him puzzled. An alarm bell rang, red lights flashing reflected through his glasses. The vigilance was clear in his experienced eyes, indicating that something unusual was about to happen. Before he could think further, a series of urgent warnings appeared, engulfing the entire room. The editor panicked as he realized the system was on the highest alert alert level, unable to understand what had just been triggered. Amid the chaos, he hurriedly jumped from his chair and ran toward the flickering magic gate. Dangerous crackling electricity sounded, a clear signal that order was being disrupted. The room became empty, leaving only the desk with a notice forbidding high-level entities from entering the 8th floor. Footsteps echoed in the silent space, signaling the arrival of another important figure. A decisive footstep sounded in the corridor, signaling the approach of someone who had realized something beyond expectations. Each sound emphasized the seriousness of the current situation. A gloved hand rose in the dim light, accompanied by a whisper of admiration. This person did not expect that Jinhyuk had planned so meticulously, leaving him with a mix of respect and caution. A blazing red barrier shone brightly, blocking the intrusion of high-level entities into the 8th floor. Intense electrical energy discharged, proving the seal could not be broken by ordinary means. However, it also served as a tacit declaration of the boundary Kang Jinhyuk had set to prevent outside interference. Yet, in the cold darkness, a masked figure with glowing red eyes and a sinister smile appeared. He was unfazed by the barrier. With a prearranged backup plan, he easily shattered the barrier like glass, and a cold message appeared: "Barrier has been disabled." The game officially entered a new phase, where Kang Jinhyuk's challenger had also revealed himself. Amid fierce howling, the flying lizard swarm appeared like a black whirlwind screaming through the air, signaling the arrival of a threat from the sky. Without hesitation, Jinhyuk ordered Yam to take him to the leader of the flying lizard pack. His bright eyes and resolute body made the opponent unable to underestimate him. In midair, Jinhyuk drew his twin swords with cold determination. A bloody battle was about to begin. Jinhyuk's sharp slash cut through the air, tearing apart the first two flying lizards. Each sword stroke carried overwhelming killing intent. He softly uttered "huh" as he sensed an unusual energy gathering around his hand, a direct reaction to the appearance of a new enemy. Facing an enemy capable of summoning from the 9th floor, Jinhyuk was astonished by the overwhelming number of bizarre creatures gradually assembling. Without delay, he activated the daylight skill. A brilliant orb of light burst forth, dispelling the darkness and revealing the entire battlefield. With a calm expression, Jinhyuk raised his bow and smiled. "Don't mind if I clear a bit, right?" The red demonic arrow skill was activated, red light enveloping the bowstring. The demonic arrow shot out like a red lightning bolt, leaving an explosive energy trail tearing through space, aiming straight at a distant target with terrifying power. Immediately, the opposing side activated Lightning Shield. A lightning aura surrounded the female bird leader, creating a dense defense that boosted the confidence of the monster pack. Encased in fierce lightning, the white-furred female monster gritted her teeth and roared in anger. She tried to channel all her strength to counterattack, activating a lightning-powered skill to turn the tide. A pillar of fire and brilliant light exploded in the dark sky of the 8th floor, sweeping away both the atmosphere and the flying creatures. Kang Jinhyuk's attack caused an explosion strong enough to break the balance. On Yam's back, Jinhyuk silently raised his hand, sensing the energy just destroyed. The light emanating from his palm proved one thing: the target had been hit. However, Yam quickly let out a warning yell. Under the dim blue sky, its golden eyes shone brightly, reminding Jinhyuk that the matter was not over yet. Yam's warning was correct. As the dust settled, the white-furred female monster slowly stood up amid the shattered debris, surviving the devastating attack. She immediately summoned a new skill, Lightning Strike. A golden lightning network wrapped her entire body, shooting fierce bolts, ready for the next counterattack. The lightning emitted from Lightning Strike swirled like an electric tornado, spiraling toward Jinhyuk and Yam. But with excellent reflexes, both quickly dodged the deadly bolts. The female monster could no longer maintain her composure. She roared in fury, her eyes blazing red with anger, shouting for Jinhyuk to stop dodging and face her power head-on. Meanwhile, other bosses could only watch from afar. They dared not approach Unknown, Jinhyuk's nickname, because his overwhelming presence paralyzed them even within their own territory. Despite being outmatched in morale, the female monster tried to reassure herself. She believed that if she maintained her large formation as it was, just holding on a little longer could reverse the situation. A moment of shock appeared on the face of the white-haired one as she sensed something unexpected, a strange signal breaking the formation she held. Amid the monster encirclement, Melina steadfastly spun the glowing golden magic rope. The distant enemies immediately realized that this item was no ordinary thing, something they did not expect to appear at this moment. When the clock hit midnight, the system confirmed the fusion process was complete. Link of Faith was officially finished and immediately reacted to another special object, the boundary blurring mirror. Amid the dazzling light from the newly completed mirror, Melina gently smiled, sighing with relief. Once again, she had survived a life-or-death moment. The system interface announced that the summoning function had been activated. Those who had established a spiritual bond would be summoned, but the harsh condition was that it only applied to individuals of different races from the user. A furious roar echoed from a red dragon. He could not believe his eyes. No one among the tower's inhabitants had ever responded to a human's call, yet it had just happened. As the connection notification with the responder's floor appeared, the ground trembled from a giant step landing, signaling the arrival of an unforeseen power. Amid light and ashes, Caracal, leader of the Frost Blade tribe, appeared majestically. He declared his identity and affirmed he would answer the summons as a true ally. Jinhyuk immediately greeted Caracal with a half-joking tone, proposing to postpone crystal payment by 3 months as part of their friendship agreement. Their cooperative spirit was clearly established beforehand. Caracal nodded slightly at Jinhyuk's promise, his eyes showing satisfaction. With a brief phrase, "very well," he implicitly confirmed his determination to fight alongside Jinhyuk in the upcoming battle. The sacred bugle sounded across the battlefield as the Ice Troll leader raised the summoning horn, imparting strength and fighting spirit to all Frostblade warriors. Amid heroic shouts, the Ice Troll warriors charged forward in unison, weapons raised high, carrying an iron will to fight for the honor of the Frostblade tribe. In response to that fierce momentum, the blazing red monster army, led by a dragon-headed creature, surged forward, creating a bloody storm between two brutal forces. The two leaders representing each side clashed at the front line. One wielded an icy war hammer, the other a blazing red axe. The resounding clash marked the start of a deadly confrontation. The Firetail tribe leader hissed angrily, his eyes burning fiercely as he could not comprehend why an ice troll would betray its own kind to side with humans. Before he could recover, he was immediately gripped tightly by the giant hand of his opponent, clearly feeling the terrifying power enveloping his body. Without mercy, the ice troll slammed his bright red body to the ground with crushing force, cracking the stone beneath under the icy fury. Collapsed on the cracked ground, the red monster's eyes flashed with astonishment. It had greatly underestimated an opponent once considered the weakest among the brutal race. Wasting no time, the ice troll continued smashing enemies around him, each strike like thunderclaps, shaking the battlefield in terror. A distant enemy warrior watched, trembling in panic as he saw his comrades crushed like grass. Only one question echoed in his mind: how can this be? In a fierce moment, Jinhyuk unleashed a sharp slash, cutting through the giant beast's body. Cold streaks traced a deadly curve across the chaotic battlefield. Sylvia, with panicked eyes and a throat silenced by a scream, could not believe what was happening. The battle's tide had turned in an instant. Jinhyuk approached the transforming Sylvia calmly, sarcastically reminding her everyone was fighting while she just stood still watching. With glowing purple eyes, Jinhyuk gently suggested it was time to return to the stage and end the silence with a new performance. Sylvia laughed arrogantly, sparks flickering at the corners of her mouth. She challenged, did he really think he was strong enough to fight her in a one-on-one battle? Activating the lightning shield skill, Sylvia's entire body ignited with fierce electric energy. A dense electric armor formed, signaling the imminent battle. In response, Jinhyuk used the mandala skill. Light spun out from his fist, a testament to his ability to predict the opponent's attack in every movement. Without hesitation, Sylvia continued activating Lightning Whip, unleashing wild lightning lashes that filled the space with dazzling light and air-tearing sounds. A loud wham erupted as Jinhyuk blocked the lightning attack with his bare hands. The shockwave shattered the stone floor, creating a spectacular scene on the battlefield. Sylvia was stunned to realize that Jinhyuk had accurately predicted her strike and blocked it with his bare hands. She murmured in fear. Turns out he was still hiding his true power. The moment he touched his opponent's body, the protagonist activated the King's Sword Step skill. Energy radiated steadily and precisely, laying the foundation for the upcoming critical strike. The sudden close-range attack stunned the giant opponent. His wide eyes and surprised roar clearly showed his helplessness against the attacker's overwhelming speed. A cold gaze and a decisive declaration from the protagonist echoed, "It ends here." There was no room for mercy or hesitation in this battle. Facing the impending nightmare, the opponent frantically screamed in panic, begging for a chance to survive. But the purple light from the newly summoned sword confirmed the executioner's irreversible choice. the demonic heavenly sword technique was unleashed, emitting compressed dark energy. The explosion, named Silent Wave, immediately engulfed the opponent in a silent yet brutal death wave. The powerful burst shook the space. The large opponent was blasted off the ground, white feathers flying amid the radiant purple shockwave. In intense pain, the opponent howled in agony. Blood spurted from his mouth, proving the finishing blow had caused serious injury, a sign of imminent victory. At a corner of the battlefield, a giant warrior with pale blue skin and massive fangs charged forward. His face, full of rage and killing intent, showed he had not yet given up fighting. The purple-haired swordswoman recognized the sign of victory. Her face lit up, eyes sparkling as she looked toward her master, proudly calling out, "Master!" Witnessing the complete reversal, the heavily wounded werewolf panicked and shouted a retreat order. "Retreat!" he roared bitterly, knowing the battle was lost. As the ground still trembled from the battle's aftermath, hordes of remaining monsters surged from the darkness behind, but the firm footsteps of a man decisively stopped the crowd. Melina, exhausted after the intense battle, collapsed onto the shattered stone floor, breathing a sigh of relief as if everything had ended. Jinhyuk turned his back, his voice calm but firm as he confirmed that the elemental spirits had taken care of the rest of the battlefield. The ninjas in the shadows bowed respectfully in unison, and the female disciple stepped forward to congratulate her master on officially conquering the 8th floor of the challenge tower. A series of notifications sounded in the system interface. Jinhyuk leveled up continuously, standing amid streams of ice and fire light, displaying the overwhelming power he had just unleashed. However, deep inside, Jinhyuk felt a vague emptiness, as if something extremely important was being missed amid all that glory. Amid the enveloping silence, a hoarse cough echoed from the enemy who seemed to have fallen. Jinhyuk's eyes remained cold, showing no surprise at the opponent's survival. The enemy lay on the ground, bleeding and defeated, but still held a trace of pride in its eyes. It admitted, after personally experiencing Jinhyuk's technique, there was an undeniable truth. A weak voice sounded, accompanied by a sarcastic smile. He affirmed that no matter how strong Jinhyuk's skill was, it could never compare to them, a mysterious hint that left Jinhyuk wary, signaling the presence of even more terrifying forces ahead. A fierce red-black energy tore through the space like lightning striking the gloomy sky, signaling the emergence of an abnormal phenomenon about to erupt. Jinhyuk looked up at the arena ceiling, where a swirling red energy orb emitted bzzzt sounds as if about to explode. The light reflected in his eyes, and Jinhyuk instinctively widened them in alert. That unusual sign immediately triggered his combat intuition to warn of danger. Before him, a giant red barrier began to envelop the entire arena space. The flowing energy surged like a flood, imprisoning all escape routes. From inside the barrier, the silhouettes of creatures, including Yam, Sylvia, and allies, gradually vanished as if submerged, swept away from the real world. Jinhyuk gritted his teeth in anger. Although he had coordinated with Rick to prepare countermeasures, he still could not prevent this disaster from happening. All plans collapsed. Within the blood-red aura, a figure slowly descended from the sky. The one Jinhyuk had always been wary of, the true enemy, finally revealed itself. A muscular demon with black horns and blazing eyes appeared. The atmosphere grew oppressively suffocating. Jinhyuk silently confirmed, "Demon." 1 hour ago, when the battlefield was still peaceful, the urban scene outside the gate of the Tower of Trials appeared bustling and calm. Beneath that ancient exterior, all the events had already begun to take shape. Kang Jinhyuk called Melina back just as she was about to turn away. His serious demeanor made Melina hesitate, her face showing clear confusion and caution. Jinhyuk began to consider and spoke directly. He understood that sensing a double wave was reasonable, as it was a typical signal when a group infiltrated another floor of the tower. But he immediately drilled down with a sharp question. Why did Melina investigate the double wave phenomenon from the start? The red light in his eyes flashed like a blade, piercing the mind of the girl who had just turned her back. Under the pressure of Jinhyuk's gaze and overwhelming aura, Melina immediately stumbled and rolled, shouting out the truth. Her superiors had wrongly ordered her to investigate because a special person would appear around the area with the double wave. Jinhyuk squinted, his hand glowing blue as magic was summoned. The question of who is the special person repeated in his mind, bringing with it a bad premonition. He gritted his teeth in despair as he realized that the countermeasures he and Rick had prepared were insufficient. This situation was spiraling out of control. Then, amid the blazing red light, a gigantic shadow with demonic wings gradually appeared before him. That creature was unlike any enemy before, full of power and deadly pressure. Each step echoed as the demon descended from the sky to face him. The scene tightened every defense mechanism, silencing the space before the impending impact. Jinhyuk froze, his heart heavy. He finally understood. The one Melina was ordered to find was the terrifying creature standing before him. The special person was none other than this demon king. Heterochromatic eyes, one yellow, one blue, widened in terror and sudden realization. The one behind the disruption of their plans was him. The enemy pulled down his mask, revealing a mocking smirk that confirmed the accusation. The interloper who sabotaged and overturned every link in their scheme, none other than Kang Jinhyuk. The long-eared man could not hide his astonishment. He briefly bowed his head, a forced and bitter smile on his face. He had been unmasked too easily. A truth gradually emerged as he looked at the necklace, a strange item glowing intensely. It was what helped him maintain his sanity amid the dark illusion. The enemy laughed scornfully upon realizing the invisible presence protecting Jinhyuk from the illusion. He did not know who it was, but no matter how hard he tried, Jinhyuk's life would end here. Activating Eye of Gluttony in desperation, Jinhyuk hoped to read the enemy's stats, but the system returned a red warning, level difference too great, no information could be viewed. In urgent spirit, Jinhyuk summoned all his willpower. He begged the system to reveal a piece of information. Just one detail would be enough to change the situation. The plea was not in vain. The green light flared, signaling that the luck skill had been activated, like a ray of hope shining through despair. Thanks to the power of luck, part of the opponent's information was finally displayed. Although he could not access everything, even a partial stat gave Jinhyuk a breakthrough start. Jinhyuk's lips slightly parted. Though he could not yet articulate the full strategy, what he was about to do would turn the entire battle around, and the name Ma was about to resound amid the fierce roar of fate. Makurdros clenched Jinhyuk's chin, his voice thick with sarcasm and vicious curiosity. His sharp yellow eyes seemed to pierce through his opponent's thoughts as he growled a question, as if waiting for a name that would make the whole space change color. In the eerie crimson light, the true name of the monster was spoken: Makurdros, the Soul Eater. The air froze instantly as the title of an ancient being echoed throughout the simulated dimension. Those golden eyes twitched for a moment. Even for Makurdros, the name just mentioned carried an unpredictable weight, a rare surprise for someone always in control. From the darkness, Jinhyuk appeared with a cold smile and blazing red eyes. He stood firm despite being restrained, resolutely affirming that he had been waiting for this encounter for a long time, proving that everything was within his calculations. The distorted space immediately vanished. Jinhyuk bowed his head, gasping for breath, his body trembling after escaping the fantasy world. Even so, the determination in his eyes had not faded. Jinhyuk sprang up, growling, "You," but instead of panic, his face showed a half-smile. It seemed that even in a desperate situation, he still had a hidden card. Looking around, Jinhyuk quickly realized Alice had exhausted herself resisting the opponent's barrier. As a result, he could now only rely on himself. He continued to analyze the situation. All allies, from Goguma to the spirits, were frozen in time. No one could provide support. This battle was now just him facing the demon alone. With ruthless coldness, Jinhyuk admitted that the chance of victory in a one-on-one fight was 0%, a hopeless number, but also the starting point for an unexpected turnaround. Makurdros, with heterochromatic eyes shining brightly in the darkness, looked down from above and commanded, "Answer me, human." His voice seemed to drown out the entire space, filling it with absolute intimidation. When every option led to a dead end, Jinhyuk decided to take the boldest step, kneeling on the arena floor, preparing to stage a grand performance to conceal his true intentions. With a meaningful smile, Jinhyuk declared a false identity. He was a dark apostle serving Demon King Varial, known as the Rotten Heart, a dangerous yet sophisticated disguise. Jinhyuk's declaration startled Hong Deokpyo, who held a position of power. The title of Dark Apostle was enough to make anyone wary. Continuing to lead the act, Jinhyuk mentioned the Demon Worship Society, a mysterious organization devoted to demonkind. He fabricated a story about a mission to seek out and submit to the strong under orders from the demon realm. Jinhyuk skillfully wove Varial into the story, describing his master as someone uninterested in power or rank, living only by instinct and fleeting emotions. In his expressive yet deceitful confession, he revealed that his original goal was merely to become a dark apostle. But while serving Varial, he came to understand himself better, a blow to the opponent's trust. With cold eyes and a smirk, Jinhyuk admitted to ambitions greater than he had imagined, a half-truth, both risky and alluring. The opponent could not hide his curiosity. From suspicion to astonishment, he asked just one word: ambition, paving the way for Jinhyuk to push the act to its climax. Not letting the opportunity slip by, Jin Hyuk continued his psychological attack. He not only wanted to serve Varial but also sought to expand his influence to another Demon King, a move that shook his opponent. Faced with such astonishing confidence, the adversary fell silent. His shadowed back was left with only a heavy ellipsis, hesitation, confusion, and perhaps surrender before the one playing the pawn but controlling the whole game. When the skill Sword Steps of the King was activated, Jin Hyuk charged straight at the enemy with the speed and might of a king declaring dominion over the battlefield. The sudden thrust struck straight into the chest of the bird-like female monster, leaving her stunned, her eyes wide with shock at the shockwave spreading through her body. In the purple light flashing from the eyes beneath the mask, Jin Hyuk whispered a cold verdict. It ends here. The female monster struggled desperately, trying to utter a warning, but Jin Hyuk did not hesitate. The skilled Dark Sky Demon Blade was unleashed like a deadly reflex. At the same moment the attack was executed, the silent wave burst effect exploded like a death wave, crushing enemies within the sealed space. The burst energy spread widely, engulfing both enemies and battlefield in a deadly vortex, feathers torn and purple smoke staining the entire area. The finishing blow caused the female monster to cough up blood, groaning in pain. She was completely powerless against Jin Hyuk's irresistible strength. Allies began to counterattack. A beast warrior roared in fury, charging straight into the battlefield as if seeking revenge. Teresa shouted, "Master," with eyes full of admiration, unable to hide her joy and pride witnessing Jin Hyuk's victory. The remaining wolves retreated, their leader shouting, "Retreat." Realizing the balance had completely tipped in favor of Jin Hyuk and his allies, the battle was decided. As the fatal strike ended, Jin Hyuk's quiet but resolute footsteps echoed among the ruins, signaling that victory had been secured. In the fading darkness, the aura of authority had yet to subside. Melina collapsed onto the stone floor, her body exhausted and drained after the life-or-death battle. A gentle breath escaped her lips, the sigh of someone who had just escaped danger. When everything had settled, Jin Hyuk coldly turned his back, no longer looking at the battlefield. He calmly confirmed the elemental spirits were completing the rest, the cleanup after the storm. In the solemn atmosphere, the black-clad subordinates bowed one by one to Jin Hyuk. Their representative, a purple-haired girl, solemnly declared, the 8th floor had been completely conquered, calling him master. The system simultaneously sounded a level-up signal. Elemental lights swirled around Jin Hyuk, ice on one side, fire on the other, symbolizing the balance between destruction and control. However, despite everything seeming perfect, Jin Hyuk still felt emptiness inside. Something, a missing piece in the entire power puzzle he was trying to build. From the rubble, the seemingly defeated enemy suddenly coughed harshly, drawing the attention of Jin Hyuk and his subordinates. The tense atmosphere rose again, signaling something unfinished. Struggling to rise amid a pool of blood, the Whitebird warrior spoke bitterly. After experiencing Jin Hyuk's ultimate skill, she realized an astonishing truth, ready to reveal it. Blood flowed from her mouth, but her eyes shone with wisdom. She asserted, although Jin Hyuk was very strong, his skills still could not compare to another entity, a being even stronger. Those words caused a flicker of change in Jin Hyuk's eyes. Though victorious, he was suddenly reminded that on the path to kingship there was still another far beyond, and the real game might only just be beginning. After the battle, a team member felt intense pain in his temple, accompanied by a dark premonition. He quietly concluded that he had just been affected by a powerful evil energy source. Despite sensing the lurking danger from that demonic energy, his gaze remained fixed on Jin Hyuk. In his mind, there was only one thing: as long as his master was fine, nothing else mattered. Jin Hyuk stood silently, clutching a strange item, a glowing key with bizarre patterns. His calmness was evident despite the heavy atmosphere lingering after the battle. A voice sounded as the item was activated. It was the crack key, a tool capable of nullifying the current pact with the demon, opening the opportunity to enter a new challenge floor. The one who gave the key to Jin Hyuk was a creature with a half-demon appearance. He smiled confidently, saying that Jin Hyuk could use it to enter any crack inside the tower and would surely face no difficulty. While opening the spatial gate with his hand, he admitted that although he had met many dark apostles before, Jin Hyuk was the first who made him both intrigued and cautious. Red flames and crackling electricity sounded as the gate neared completion. He could not hide his admiration for Varial's choice, who had selected Jin Hyuk as his apostle. Jin Hyuk tightened his grip on the key, crystal shards falling and shining with red light. Though his expression remained calm, inside he began analyzing the newly revealed connection. Jin Hyuk's thoughts grew heavier. If the opponent had met dark apostles before, did that mean some other players had already chosen that dark path early on? A voice came from the glowing necklace around Jin Hyuk's neck, inquiring about his condition. He smiled lightly, replying that he had survived, all thanks to the recent assistance. Alice frowned slightly, recalling a being who once stopped time, a high-level demon using masterful magic. For her, encounters with such forbidden powers were countable on one hand, indicating the terrifying nature of the current situation. As she stepped toward the magic-inlaid gate, Alice wondered about the cryptic promise Jinhyuk had given the enemy. However, Jinhyuk calmly thought to himself that everything was part of his plan, everything had been calculated. Touching the crystal core, Jinhyuk officially completed the challenge of Floor 8. The system immediately confirmed victory over the Floor 9 boss as well, marking a double success without needing to open the next battlefield. The subordinates bowed their heads to congratulate Jinhyuk's second consecutive victory. But instead of enjoying the glory, he was silent and accepted questions about his next move, a question that hinted at a new direction. Amid the continuous level-up chimes, Jinhyuk turned back with a sharp gaze. Without hesitation, he uttered a strange planned complaint, a move never before seen in the tower's normal operation. The scene shifted to the Great Magic Library, the place preserving ancient knowledge and also the information management center of the floors. The quiet atmosphere in soft golden light seemed to signal something unusual was about to happen. A mid-level manager, Rick Hennessy, sat adjusting his hat and single-lens glasses. His expression was a mix of smugness and surprise as he prepared to face an uninvited guest. In the moment Rick glanced up, his sharp eyes revealed worry. The calm before the storm approaching, the person Rick never wanted to face at this time. Jinhyuk suddenly appeared, leaning close to Rick's face, his eyes blazing fiercely like a demon in human form. In a harsh tone, he demanded a conversation, an implicit threat directed at the great mid-level manager, Rick Hennessy.